Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to the next level, conversations that propel business.
It's already started.
There it goes. It can only go up from here.
So why are we here? And who are you?
I'm Stephen Nooner.
Okay.
And I'm the host.
Okay. All evidence to the contrary. And this is Bob Gibbons. We are here today with Flip Croft-Caderao.
That was pretty good.
No, that sucked.
No, it was all right.
Caderao.
Why did you twist your head when you said that?
Why did I twist my head?
Yeah, because that's the way Brazilians do
It's
it.
been in my brain to try and say that. All right, so Flip is the founder and CEO of the Infinite Agency. That's
Sounds pretty small.
Yeah, it is. They're a branding agency. They get into all kinds of stuff: social media, creative, digital, web, production, experiential. Ooh, I want to know about that. And they have a few little clients you may have heard of: Budweiser, FanDuel, Pizza Hut, Carter Blood Care, Ziegenbach, and even dental warranty.
Oh,
and
watch
if you
out
remember,
now.
we had Parker Ince as a guest on
cool.
here
He's a
good
quite a
friend
long
of
time
mine.
ago.
That's awesome.
So that was cool. They have offices in Dallas, Atlanta, and L.A. Welcome, Flip. We're glad
Hey,
you're here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we like to start off the wisdom of others. And so Bob's got this gem of a quote here. Bob, what do you have for us today?
No, you read it.
Okay.
It's a great quote.
So
You're
I
gonna
give
love
Bob a show to watch. Is this from the show I told you to watch?
No, it's not from the show, but it's from about the guy that you told me to
Game
watch.
of Thrones?
So the quote's Albert Einstein.
Oh, heard of it.
The show is genius. And the quote is, imagination is more important than knowledge. Bob, what does that mean to you?
I have no idea, but I figured Flip could clear it up for us since
Okay.
he's from an agency, which is supposed to be all creative and such.
And he doesn't own a suit.
I don't own a suit at all.
Which
I
I
have
think
sports
that's just
jacket,
awesome.
though. I used to have suit. I did speech and debate when I was in high school, and I had to wear suits for that. But that's the last time. And I've grown up a little bit, and I don't fit in those suits anymore. So I had to retire all those.
Tell us something about yourself that nobody knows other than the fact that you don't have any suits.
Or have an opinion on Bob's brilliant quote.
Oh, I've got an opinion on that. I guess I could talk about that. Something that no one else knows. Oh, a lot of people. I was a theater major in college and undergrad, and I have a master's in theology.
Wow.
So I guess a lot of people don't know. I mean, I'm a little forthright with it, but that I've never taken an advertising class or a marketing class or a business class in my entire life, and that's what I do every day. So it's really funny that I have no formal training at all. So just totally self-taught.
That's a heck of a combination.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And then you were in a rap group as well.
Yeah, I was in a rap group in high school. Well, I was actually in a rap core band in high school. That's when bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit were cool. Remember them?
Yes.
No.
And okay.
Your son does.
Yeah, so I did music all through high school, and in college I had a mini rap career, I guess.
So do you think that the lack of training has benefited you?
I don't know, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. But
right.
I think that it has helped me think outside the box. I think it's helped me approach situations and challenges from a framework that is not in the way that everyone else looks at it, because I haven't been taught that. So I think it's beneficial. It's also, not beneficial, because there's a lot of times where I don't know what's going on.
Sure.
And, I'm having to feel my way through things.
So how did you end up in that space?
In advertising?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, funny story. My wife comes from a whole family of entrepreneurs, right? So I was working at a church at the time, hence the Masters of Theology, and I started freelancing, designing. I mean, well, actually, the story goes like this. So I started on this nonprofit church. My boss and now mentor said, "Hey, we need a new website because our website sucks, but we can't afford to pay for one. So you're gonna have to learn how to make a website." And I was like, "Okay." So I made a deal with them. I said, "If you buy me Creative Suite, Adobe Creative Suite, which is like the whole suite of programs that you can design in, I'll learn how to do this." And he said, "Okay." So he did, and I did, and I built, just a really crappy website. And then I rebuilt it a few times, and I was kind of learning, and I really liked this. I really liked the creativity of it and design and things like that. So I started freelancing on the side. When you work for the church, if you've ever worked for a nonprofit, I think I started that job at like $17,000 a year. I started freelancing to make some extra money, obviously. And, it wasn't long before my freelance, my freelance income started like superseding my regular income. And I think I ended that job at like $28,000 a year with a master's degree.
So there are rewards there.
Yeah, they're definitely rewards.
They're eternal. They're eternal rewards,
yes,
my friend.
So I was thinking about going to ad school, and I got into an ad school, and I was really excited about it. And she's my wife now. She was we were like barely dating at this time, so it was like pseudo girlfriend, I guess. She asked me, "Hey, well, what are you going to do if you go to ad school, and what are you going to do when you come back?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll, just get an ad job, but honestly, I eventually just wanted to like do my own thing. I think that'd be cool, because I was freelancing and all that stuff." And I just remember she was like, "Why don't you just do that now?" And like in that moment, I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I should just do that." So I just went into kind of full-time freelance, and then soon after that, I met my business partner Jonathan, who was at SMU. I knew him there, and he was in a band too. He was kind of freelancing out of the back of the tour bus for a couple years after college, and we kind of connected. That we just started meeting in coffee shops and working on work and doing everything from like birthday invitations and wedding websites and like logos for random businesses, and just kind of grew the business from there. So I think that's something that's really unique, I think, about our agency is that we're not your traditional ad guys that worked in an ad agency, worked their way up, and then broke off and stole a few clients and started business. We literally grew it from the ground up. Meeting in coffee shops and meeting, regular people and learning, really the ins and outs of what local business was, and then grew that from regional stuff, and then, kind of as you mentioned, got to do some larger national stuff in the past few years, and that's kind of the trajectory we're on now.
So how does that go from, because that's how we started, but how did that go for you? How did that journey go from that and doing the work, living, breathing it, to 60 employees, bigger? There's some inflection points that happen along the way.
Yeah, and I think I'm reflecting on those kind of inflection points, or those little growth spurts that we have, or growing pains that we had, and I feel a lot now we're like kind of in adolescence moving into adulthood a little bit. But that, at first we were, we rented this one person office. It was like an executive suite, and we crammed like 6 people in there. Literally. And the office was actually the same size office that I have now currently, which is one person. And I remember, I just, remember that point where we moved from freelance to an office, and I was just talking to a client, and, we signed like a retainer, for like, it was like $2,000 a month or something. And I was like, you just got to sign this because we get to move into our office if you could sign. Like, we have money we can bank on. And I was just, I just remember being open and honest with him, and he's like, yeah, let's do it, And so, we signed the lease, we got in the office, and, like, I said, like, we packed it out. And then, and that, because the next inflection point was, we did some work for Kid Craddock in the morning when he was still around, and developed a great relationship there. And he was looking at investing into some other companies. So his company, his parent, the company who owns Kid Craddock in the Morning, the show, invested in us, bought half of us, and then we moved out to Las Colinas, still 6 people, roughly, and just kind of grew it from there. And I just, and soon after that, there was like this inflection point of we went through like a hiring spurt where we hired like 8 or 9 people at once. And I just remember the growing pains of that, and challenging parts of that. And the funny thing is, actually, now we moved into a new office, and that was a cool little moment. But now right now I'm trying to hire for like 9 different positions, and we're experiencing a lot of the same kind of growing pains and kind of challenges. But I think that the most interesting thing that I've kind of seen is, and the thing that I'm really interested in is, like, how do you scale culture, right? And culture is, there's some things that you could do to set it up, right? And so we have core values. We obviously have, vision, mission, all of those things that we've kind of set. Like Jonathan and I wrote our core values on a napkin at a bar. Instead of writing a business plan, we were like, well, we got to figure out what we're going to be about, and so we kind of set that in motion. But the culture is really of the people, right? So as people come in, as people leave, and the culture evolves with the people. Like, there's no one that like polices the culture. It's just who you are. And I think because it's not so structured, right? You can't just say, oh, you're in violation of the culture code or not, I think it's a big challenge. I think that's the biggest challenge, the kind of worthiest challenge I feel right now is, like, as new people come in, and especially in these kind of waves, how does that change the culture? And then how do we adopt those new things, right? Like, and how do we evolve and change? It's not the way it used to be, but that's not what it's about. It's about what it is now and what we're building towards the future. So I think that was probably a really lengthy answer to your question, but I think that's the main thing. I mean, that's the biggest inflection point if you want to talk about like a global arc of the entire agency. I feel that's been kind of the most challenging, but the most rewarding, and I think the most noble pursuit that I'm kind of after right now.
When we come back, we're going to talk more about this and wisdom learned from Flip on how to work more effectively with millennials. Stick around.
Alrighty.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy one that you can articulate? Or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
My name is Alex Dube, and I'm the founder and CEO of Door. I've always been told that it takes one to know one, and after my time with Bob and Steven, I'm confident that I am indeed a dreadful radio host.
Welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. We're here with our guest, Flip. Go ahead, finish this out. Flip.
Croft. Come on.
Caderao.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Spoken like
that-
a true Brazilian,
Yeah,
Bob.
totally.
Yeah, well, I'm not a true Brazilian. I'm just a sort of semi-Brazilian.
Brazilian. That's what it says on your birth certificate.
Yeah, my birth certificate's semi.
Semi.
All right, so before the
With
break,
the Infinite Agency,
Oh, I'm sorry.
theinfiniteagency.com.
thank you. I did.
Welcome
yeah.
back.
We are messing this up today, but that's all right.
Hey, it's
all right,
all
so
good.
before the break, we were talking about culture, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, you have 3 different offices.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with trying to have a consistent culture across 3 different offices that are coast to coast?
Right. So kind of the same stuff that I talked about, which is you could set it up right? So you have things that kind of anchor the culture, like core values and your general way of treating each other and things that your core beliefs. But we were actually just having this conversation with my operations principal that, specifically LA and Atlanta is a different story too. That's an agency that we've acquired that has their own culture, has their own name, that are is running very independently. Our LA office runs pretty autonomously from us as well. In a lot of ways, they're running a 3-person agency out there. So there's these core values I think that we all align on. But when it comes to everything else, they have they have control over that. So, what they're going to wear to the office, how they, the different activities, like they've got this social activity, that sounds so weird, this cool event that they do every month called Tatterday. And they open up the offices on Saturday, and we're in the same office with our vendors out there that do a lot of films and video production. So they'll screen films out there, and they'll bring a tattoo artist in to give out, tattoos on Saturday. So, I mean, that's something that, I think it'd be cool to do in Dallas, but that's something that they've created.
You need to give
that's a
Steven
part
the
of-
dates for all those tatter days.
Yeah, come on.
New employee benefit coming. I'm
Time
telling
to
you.
tat up the nooner.
Well, I mean, yeah, could be a new segment on your show. You could do an interview while he's getting very painful, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I want.
But but yeah, I mean, so and in a lot of ways, you can't, like I said before, you can't police the culture. You can inspire it, but the community is what the community is. So, how you let them develop that is very, very important, right? Because we're not in LA every day. We're on the phone with them, once a week, really. So to give them the autonomy to be able to create their office in the way that they need to create, as long as it's aligned with our core values. I mean, I think the way our core values are expressed and the way that they're lived out is going to be different based on the people, and a lot of times based on the geography, right? Like LA clients are very different than our clients here in Texas, and very different than our clients in New York, and
Or Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, and it's I think you have to give the freedom in order to do that, because then you're just enforcing, then you just become like the mom who's just enforcing you have to believe these things, or you have to live your life in this exact same way. And I just don't think that's truthful or authentic to anyone. I don't think anyone wants to be a part of that. I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint too, that spirit is really well and alive at Infinite. And there's a part of that, right? Like, why do we become entrepreneurs? Because, well, we want to write the rules. We want to be able to do the things that's in our heads and see it realized and lived out.
Sure.
And I think giving people that opportunity to flex those muscles a little bit, I think is a really cool service that you could do, which is, might segue into this next part, but, especially dealing with a very a young culture and, that's, all from one generation. There's a way to I think inspire millennials and giving autonomy and freedom is one way to do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that more because that's always a hot topic, and we have a very diverse age within our company, and really what we look for is people that are just growth minded. Their best days are ahead of them. Not behind them. And so that kind of mindset, I think, tends to bridge all those age, classifications we can put on people. But we, don't have a large subsection of any one. So I'm kind of curious in a business like yours where you have like a dominant, age group.
And it's like super dominant. It's like, we have 60 employees. I'm the fourth oldest in the agency. I'm 34. So let's call it 55 people or 35 and under out of 60. That's a huge percentage. And it's just funny, because I'm trying to read books on this stuff. I'm trying to read all the articles I can, and everything that I've read or that I've encountered so far is really from how do we deal with millennials, right? Like,
which is a real negative kind of
do? Oh, totally, yeah. And it's like, I'm like, man, I want to find someone who's doing it like me, who goes to work every day, that is immersed in this generation and having to, having to work with them day in and day out. And I haven't found that yet.
But aren't there? Wouldn't there be as much diversity in the Gen X or the millennials or the boomers? Maybe there's some differences in their experiences. The boomers like me didn't grow up with the internet, whereas the millennials have grown up, on the internet. A part of the internet. They're the stars of their own, ongoing Truman
YouTube
Show.
Series. Yeah, totally.
But there's still a huge amount of diversity.
Totally.
Among
Some
them.
have watched Karate Kid, some have not. Stuff like that.
The sad ones have. But go ahead.
You haven't seen Karate Kid? Is that
Never.
what come on.
This is an ongoing joke.
It's
Daniel
ongoing.
LaRusso?
The audience is tuning out right now. We'll keep going, but
Well,
save it for lunch.
I think yes and no. I think when it comes down to it, I think people are people, right? And speaking to people, especially on an individual basis, I think that, everyone's a unique snowflake, right? But also everyone is just super regular and normal, right? So there's a lot, in the same breath, right? I think that definitely exists. I stole that from a friend of mine, Rocky Garza, shout out to him. But I do think that there are certain thought lines or prevailing things that exist within each generation, right? Just like they do within race or culture or classes, right? There's certain struggles or things that you kind of deal with.
Yeah, in my generation, I'm 54. So in my generation, it would never occur to most of us to run to the internet and spill our guts about experiences we've had with vendors, restaurants, employers, all that kind of stuff. But the millennial generation does do that. And in some ways, I'm happy about it because I read the reviews before I book an Airbnb.
Totally.
I'm trying to book a boat down in Galveston, of all things. I'm reading reviews on renting a boat. So there are reviews for, employers.
Yeah.
Glassdoor, is it called, I think? So, have you guys experienced
Yeah, we
Glassdoor?
totally have. And that's right. There's there's this idea of shared knowledge, right? And so how, that's why reviews are so popular, because it's like, well, if I can get real, information, from people's experiences, that's going to help inform my, generation or my decision making process or whatever. But the challenge is, right, that those, there's no there's very few like great Yelp reviewers, right? There's like the Yelp elite that give, that in a sense get paid to, or they get gifts and free meals and stuff to make good reviews or whatever. But most of the time people are just complaining, right? You look at Amazon, you look at any kind of review site. That's the problem. It gives voice to those people who are really pissed off, right? And who are really like, angry and in a lot of ways in an emotional state. And I think Glassdoor is a good example, which we've definitely experienced of, places where people can kind of vent, and in some ways, retaliate against, the bad service that they had or something that they, disagree with.
But here's my challenge with all of it is that there are things that people would never say to each other's
totally.
face, right?
Face to face.
Right? I mean, like, we had a challenge with the service you mentioned. And so we did some research. We're like, at first we're like, oh gosh, we must have really missed this and we really pissed this person off. Well, what we found is when we gave like, hey, we're really sorry you had a bad experience here, they replied back. The more they replied, you start to see kind of trends and patterns. I was a team member that wasn't even with us 90 days. Then they started going on and posting salaries that they earned that was half of what we pay people. And it really got to be, but there was no very minimal oversight from the service.
So no verification.
Or protection verification. And so they're literally, in an open door company where we've actually won awards on our culture and things like that. It's just, how do you counterbalance that? What's the solution? And so we just kind of, eventually you just stop kind of going back and forth because clearly,
So from a marketing standpoint then, Flip, what is the best way to handle a bad review on your company, on your product, on your service, whatever?
Yeah, I think that I think you have to come from a place of authenticity. I think that if you think about how and when I say, this millennial generation, right? They grew up on the internet, right? They grew up in social media, meaning the way that they formed relationships, right? In a lot of way, their conversations are based on these, behind a keyboard, right? And so, what do you do in junior high? What does a millennial in junior high do when, the girl down the hall, I don't know, like kissed her boyfriend or whatever? You blast them on social media, right? And like that's a common thing, right? That's what you do. You hide behind the keyboard and you're able to kind of vent and be kind of nasty. And so I've seen that just transcribe like to the workplace, and I don't know. To be totally honest, I think that you
got 11 seconds to tell us that.
You have to meet them where they're at. I think you have to be honest and truthful, but I think you have to really have to understand where they're coming from, and see their kind of emotional state while they're writing that and trying to not necessarily address that, but try to get through that in the best way possible.
Well, Flip, thanks so much for being our guest today. Sorry we didn't have enough time, but we'll be back next week with another great guest. If you want to learn more about The Infinite Agency, go to theinfiniteagency.com.
If you want to learn more about the show, nextlevelshow.com.
See you next week.
Have a great week.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.